Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to HBCU Game Day. I hope your week's been going well. We are in the thick of things when it comes to basketball. It is tournament time, Division II getting things underway. We've got the CIAA going on. The SIAC starts this week, and we're going to spend this entire episode talking SIAC basketball. The tournament is going to end in Atlanta for the championship, and that's going to be a whole lot of fun. But you don't want to hear from me like the entire time. We're talking SIAC. We got to talk to this guy right here. Look how clean he is.
Well, I mean, I heard I was going to be around you, so I figured I'd clean up a little bit, make myself look a little bit better for the people out there in TV land.
The sports, all the way down to the pocket hanker, man.
My wife dresses me in the morning still. I'm not ashamed to admit. My
wife asked me, what am I doing when I leave the house? It's more like that. All right, speaking of the ladies, let's talk about SIAC women's basketball. Sly, every week, one of my other jobs, right? I'm part of a poll. Mm-hmm. So when you look at top 5 poll between Division I, Division II, boys and girls, men and women, the hardest poll I have to vote in each week is Division II women. Across the board, I think that is the most competitive basketball in HBCU hoops right now. What has it been like in the SIAC for the ladies this year?
In the SIAC, it's kind of been a dogfight, all around the top, especially with the ladies. Clark Atlanta, throughout the year, they've been the team that's kind of on the brink of being in the top 25 in the nation, Division II in the nation. They're kind of the class of the SIAC, but you can't forget about Miles. You can't forget about Miles. They're in that SIAC West, and they're on top of that division. And Allen in the SIAC East is right behind Clark. I mean, they had a battle. They had a battle last week across the street down there at Clark Atlanta. So it is a tough conference, really top heavy.
The team that's been the hardest to kind of gauge is Tuskegee because they came on strong, but they're right behind Miles. And you're like, well, how good are they? But when Tuskegee came on, man, they came on like gangbusters. Their record in the last 10 games outside of Clark Atlanta, they've been the hottest team in the league, but still right there with Miles.
That's the thing about Tuskegee. They're a real balanced team. They're kind of led by Abdul Rahim. She's the leading scorer on the team, but they have a lot of different players who can bring you a lot of different things every night. And that's why, sometimes you have a team that just can't quite put it all the way together right there. And so they end up losing some close games. But Tuskegee is a very scary team come the tournament. Those ladies at Tuskegee, they may get out there and shock somebody and run the board. They can run the whole board. They are a tough team.
You talk about top to bottom, Sly. Fort Valley State, Albany State. I was part of the studio broadcast for that game. It was on TV just this past weekend. Look, those two teams are, last place. It is what it is in the East. It was the best game I saw all week. Like the rivalries in the SIAC, it is so cliche, and I hate cliches when you're like, throw the records out of the window. But man, if anything was true, that last weekend, both the boys and the girls game, men's and women, both go to overtime. Like those type of rivalries, man, this time of the year really kind of sets the tone for what's coming up at the tournament.
You say that, and we've been doing this for so long. We know all the cliches. We know all of them. But the reason they're cliches is because they're so true. They're so true. That Fort Valley, Albany State game, those two teams, they don't like each other. Let's be honest. They don't like each other. It's a long rivalry, and every time they play that game, I could care less what each team's record is, where each team is ranked. It is going to be a dogfight, and they show it every time. And one thing I love about it, the gym's packed. They bring out everybody. They understand the importance of that rivalry. And that's another great thing about the SIAC. One thing I love about the SIAC is that rivalry weekend, what they'll do. So you'll have Fort Valley playing Albany. That same weekend, you'll have Morehouse playing Clark. Kentucky State, Central State, Allen, Benedict, or they may change it and make it the battle of the AMEs and have Allen playing Edward Waters. See, I love those rivalries, and I love how they all have them just all on one day together. And I'm a sports freak, man. I'll have one TV in the garage ready. Well, my wife put me in the garage. I can't come in the house. So I have a TV in the garage right
we
here
have more in
watching one
common
game.
than Sly.
The other one over here. I got a laptop right here, and I got my phone, and I'm watching everything, man. I love how it's all put together.
One of the things, you're watching HBCU Game Day, Sly the Sports Guy, Tolly Carr, Atlanta, Georgia, HBCU Game Day Studios, talking about the SIAC, giving you an in-depth preview, and still to come a little later in this show, the commissioner of the SIAC, Anthony Holloman, is going to join us. He's going to sit right here. New microphone's going to be right here for the commissioner. And Sly's going to have a lot of hard questions. It used to be not that long ago, everything went through Benedict on the girl side. And Benedict was just kicking butt and taking names. The field has caught up. Again, we're going to go to the cliches, Sly. What is the word? Parody. I hate that word. Parody. There's so much parody. But again, it rings true that Allen. Where in the world did Allen come from?
Well, Allen has a new coach. And blame my heart, not my head. I'm sorry. I can give you this lady's whole bio. She played for Don Staley. She played at University of South Carolina. She's coming in coaching, and her name just slipped my mind. Oh, I'm so sorry. I apologize. Her name slipped my mind. But she came in with a whole new mentality for Allen. She says, hey, we have some players. We're going to take what we have. I'm going to coach you up, and I'm going to make us win. And that's exactly what she did. She took the talent she had. Coach Nolan, I think, she left, and the last coach, she left and went to New Jersey, and then came back and doing a great job at in Rock Hill. Oh man, at the NACCA school. I'm not quite. I forget. It's another HBCU. It's another HBCU, but I forget the name of it. But they are the NCCA school. But anyway. Enough about her, she's gone. But the current regime at Allen, they are just doing so much. And I think once she gets her total handprint on the program the way she wants, she may go ahead and say, Clark, we may have enough to go ahead and push you out the way. Miles, we may be able to push you out the way. She's already won the battle of Taylor Street down there in Columbia and pushing Benedict out the way. So watch out for Allen.
And when you have expansion, we have new teams that come in like Allen and Edward Waters, and they come in and they're good and competitive. And look, they're second and third in the women's division in the East right now. We've seen expansion before. College football has dominated a lot, and sometimes some schools come over and they're just filling the spot on the schedule. But these are teams that are coming in and winning and playing well. That's a win for the entire conference.
It's a great win for the conference. Because like you said, sometimes you'll have schools that'll come in and they'll just be placeholders. You're just, hey, we need somebody else to add to the conference. But Allen and Edward Waters, they've came in and they've done great things in all sports. They've established themselves in all sports. You got Cabrillo Huff down there at Edward Waters with the men's basketball team and what they're doing down there. And then you have Allen, even though Coach Keaton's left, but Coach Pearl over there at Allen with the football team, the way Allen has established itself as a football program. I love the fact that you bring in two schools like that, and now they're contenders in your conference. They're showing, hey, we're not just going to bring in some dead weights to the conference.
Oh, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk men's basketball. We're taking a look at the upcoming SIAC tournament. Commissioner Holloman on the way as well. Sly the Sports Guy, Tolly Carr, HBCU Game Day. We'll be back in a minute. Welcome back to HBCU Game Day. I'm Tolly Carr, still hanging out here with Sly, the Sports Guy. We talked women's hoops. Let's move on now to the men's side of the ledger. We're getting ready for the SIAC tournament coming up. Sly, tell us about the tournament format. It's going to be at Morehouse, but we're going to open it up with home games, kind of like satellite games, and then we're going to make it here to Atlanta.
And so you'll have your top teams, they'll get to play at home. Now, I love this version. And the reason for that, because let's be honest, those early round games, especially if it's on a neutral court, you're not really going to have many people show up. And that's just being honest.
I like that as well, because one of the things that happens is you kind of build that emotional investment of the postseason with the fan base. Because if you get a team that, maybe fans didn't think they were going to make a run and they get an upset in one of these, what I'm calling a satellite game, and they make it to Atlanta. Well, now the energy is a little different, as opposed to saying, you know what? I'm going to support the team. I'm going to get my money together. I'm going to go to Atlanta. We might lose in the first round. I think you'll have more buy-in that way. And I remember being in college, man, and my team, Winston-Salem State, a CIAA team, made it to the NCAA tournament on the humbug. Me and a bunch of buddies just drove down to Georgia. We went to Milledgeville or somewhere because you just get that excitement, the tournament time with the winning. All right, let's talk about Clark Atlanta. On top in the girls in the division, on top with the boys as well. But they got some tough competition in that division with Albany State.
Albany State is a tough team. Albany State, I love what Albany State does with the ball. One thing about Albany that kind of sticks out for me, that really sticks out for me is the way they, I'm sorry, I got a little congested. The way they score the ball as a team, they have a bunch of people who can just give you points. They can put points here, put points there. And I love that about Albany State. Now, something else that sticks out, and Shakir Poteet, I'm sorry.
He's the third leading scorer.
Third leading scorer in the conference. Shakir Poteet, he's a kid who can put it in the basket. Now, they'll challenge Clark. They'll challenge Clark, and right behind Clark in the East is Morehouse. See, it's kind of funny. Morehouse is a team trying to find their way. They'll win, and then they'll lose a bunch of close games. They'll have a lot of leads going into the final 5 minutes and can't win. I want to say they lost 5 games this year when they were up by 10 going into the last 4 minutes. So you have a team like that that's just sitting on the outside. That's a scary team come tournament time. Now, everybody, they may have a little fear of Morehouse in the side. They may have a little fear of Albany State. You know, Clark Atlanta's on top in the East, but everybody's running from the big bad bear, the big bad golden bear. They're running from Coach Fred Watson and those golden bears at Miles. Oh, man, they're 18-1 in the conference. They have just ran through everyone down there, and they've beaten teams. One thing I like about a team that shows me what type of team you are, if you beat a team, if you can blow out the teams you're supposed to blow out, win close games against the teams that are somewhat close to your equal, you don't play down to the level of your competition. And what Coach Fred Watson has done, he has a fine, well-oiled machine over there in Fairfield, Alabama.
Well, you know what? Coach Watson has shown us he understands the game of basketball. Mm-hmm. He came over to Miles. He left where he was as a winner, and he showed up, and he continued those winning ways. What makes him so special as a coach?
I think the way he coaches his players, he gets the best out of the kids he had. Now, early in my career in media, when Coach Watson was at Benedict College, I got to see Watson, because I'm from Columbia, born and raised. So I got to see Coach Watson, you know, early in my career, and I got to see the way he worked with some of those Benedict teams. And I'm going to be honest, some of those teams that he won the conference championships with, they weren't the best teams. They weren't the most talented teams, but he's a tactician. He knows the X's and O's. He knows how to get the most out of his players. And when you give him a bunch of kids who can play, it's going to be scary.
Let's talk about 2 individual players. And I ran this a couple of weeks ago. Walter Peggs Jr. from Spring Hill and LeVar Miller Jr. from Kentucky State. Mm-hmm. Those are 2 of the best three-point shooters in the country. Not in the conference, in the country. And LeVar Miller, his percentage or his made three-point field goals, like, leads everybody. Like, even if you throw in Division I schools, like, those 2 guys can put it in the bucket. You know, when people think about HBCU basketball, you think about, you know, maybe point guards with handles and dishes, and, you know, you think along those lines, but SIAC players can shoot the ball better than anybody. Stats bear this out.
Yeah, without a doubt, they are snipers. They are what you call assassins from long range. Peggs is shooting, I pulled it up, he's shooting around 44% from deep. And now Miller, like you said, he's the leading three-point field goals made in the nation. He's
averaging over almost like 4.5 a game.
4.5 a game, and that's where he's at. He's averaging, I think Peggs is averaging 18.9 a game. I'm sorry, Peggs is averaging 25. I don't want to short you, Peggs. Peggs is averaging 25. Miller is averaging right around 19 a game. These are 2 guys who can just put it in the basket. And it kind of makes you wonder. It's like, oh, maybe if he had one more guy with him, if he had somebody else with him just to help him out just a little bit. But these guys are players, man. I love watching them play.
All right. Predictions. I won't put you on the line and say who's going to win it, but when we go to Forbes Arena and it's the last night.
Oh, I never ran from a prediction. Hey, I'm like the world famous Benedict Tiger grad.
Well, what you got?
I ain't never scared.
What you got?
I'm like Bone Crusher. I ain't never scared.
All right, Bone Crusher, what you got?
I'm going to tell you right now, I think on the women's side, I think Clark Atlanta is a force. They are a force. I think Clark Atlanta is going to walk away with the women's title. Teddy Keaton did not pay me to say this, but I do think Clark Atlanta is going to walk away with it on the women's side. And quite honestly, I see on the men's side, without a doubt, I think Miles is going to come through, and it won't really be close for Miles. I think they're going to avenge last year's championship game. Clark Atlanta won last year. They went down there, and I don't know if it's a shock, but they definitely went down there and upset Miles in Savannah. I think this year, Miles might run everybody out the gym. They might have to change the Maroon Tigers gym. They might have to change it to purple and gold.
Well, that will be interesting to see there on Student Movement Boulevard. All right, so Sly goes all chalk on his predictions. That was really bold. Thank you, Sly, for going completely chalk there. All right, the commissioner is on the way. Anthony Holloman, you guys stick around. This is HBCU Game Day. Back in a minute. Hey everybody, welcome back to HBCU Game Day. Thank you so much for sticking around with us. All right, the man of the hour is here. Let's give it up for Dr. Anthony Holloman, the commissioner of the SIAC. I want our directors and producers off camera to make sure we get a good shot of that Winston-Salem State sign behind this Johnson C. Smith Golden Bull. I might have to go back there and move it a little bit. Commissioner, what's up, man?
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, look, everybody's in basketball mode. You're in a unique week. You know, we get the CIAA out of the way. SIAC is going to have that spotlight for Division II basketball postseason. Tell everybody about the tournament, how it's set up this year, what we can expect, where to be, and give us the whole breakdown.
So we're excited. We played the previous two tournaments in Savannah, Georgia, and this year we'll be in Atlanta. Morehouse College and Forbes Arena will host the championship tournament. We have a unique new format for the SIAC. We gave buys to the number ones on the East and West for men's and women's. Because we have an odd number of teams on the men's side, the 8th place team on the East does not qualify to play in the tournament. So we'll have 2, 3, and 4 host 4, 5, and 6 on their home courts to earn a right to be in the field. And so we thought this would give us an opportunity to have a championship atmosphere. When you have a 8-day tournament, you typically play games in front of no crowds. And so it's important to me for me to give our student athletes the best experience that we can. We think having a play-in round where you're hosting games on your campus will do that. There'll be enthusiasm surrounding those games. We'll have a tournament with 8 teams. We'll start Wednesday, March 5th, and we'll start with 4 games Wednesday, 4 Thursday, 4 Friday, and culminate with our championship on Saturday afternoon. So we're really excited.
Sly, one of the things I like, it also gives the kids a chance to get a tournament game in because, you know, all these kids can't travel to Atlanta. Right. If you're in, you know, Edward Waters or if you're in Benedict, you might not have the transportation, the money. It's a great environment because those kids really bring the energy.
And I love it. I love the fact that you can play a home game in front of your home crowds. I think that was just one of the best things that's happening with this tournament, just allowing, like you say, the kids to get a chance to actually support their school, support their team. Then if you have strong community relations that a lot of these schools have built up, the community can come out and see them one last time. I love it.
Commissioner, what has this season been like? There's been a lot of dog fights. There's been look, you've had the teams that have dominated and everybody's rooting against them. You've had the underdogs, the kind of Cinderella moments leading up to it. How balanced of a season has this been, both not only on the men's side, which always gets a lot of attention, but the women's side has been phenomenal, I think.
It's been exciting to see universities like Allen, who's traditionally not been strong in women's basketball. They're second right now. They played a game at Clark Atlanta last week where they were up 14 points going in the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. If they win that game, then the game that they played tomorrow night would have been for the Eastern Division title. Clark was able to fight back and win that game, but it shows that we have competition from the top to the bottom. Miles, who won the tournament last year, is half a game in front of Tuskegee in the West. So I look for a very competitive tournament and very, very competitive opening rounds. On the women's side. On the men's side, Miles, who has been a perennial contender, has only lost one game. So they look like the top team on the West. But the East, you have 4 or 5 teams who could come out on top. You have Fort Valley, who lost a tough one last night, but they're 10-9. Savannah State is 11-9. You have Edward Waters, who's lost a few in a row. They've won 12. Morehouse has gotten to third place. Clark Atlanta and Albany are fighting. Tomorrow night will determine who gets the bye. So I'm excited that we have parity, and basketball is improving in the SIAC.
All right, Sly, you've been working closely with Dr. Holloman here since he's taken over the last couple of years in the league. Tell us about this guy. What has he been doing over here?
Well, one thing, I love the innovations that he's done so far with the league. Just, I'm a big proponent. I believe every championship game should be in Atlanta. That's just me. He ended up bringing the football championship to Atlanta last year, the year before last. Even though it was bad weather, it still was a nice turnout. Moving the tournament. I love Savannah. It's a great place to visit, but it's nothing like Atlanta. Bringing the championship here to Atlanta, and then not only bringing it to Atlanta, but keeping it at Morehouse. So keep the money home. Keep the money home. Don't need to pay somebody else. Keep the money home. I love that. I love all the fun things that they're bringing. We just had an indoor track championship, the first indoor track championship. And not only was it an indoor track championship, the location they had it at. They had it at a Black-owned indoor track facility. For me, I love supporting our own, supporting here, supporting us. And I think that's what we're doing. That's what he's doing here at the SIAC.
Well, Commissioner, I would ask you what it's like working with Sly, but it's only a 26-minute show, so we won't get into that. But I would ask you in the closing minutes a couple more questions for us here. What are some challenges and opportunities that you see for the conference moving forward?
I think we have nothing but opportunities. We have 15 great institutions over a 7-state footprint. We've just added indoor track, like Sly said. We have men's volleyball. So we're looking at emerging sports. Maybe women's flag football will be next. But the SIAC is in a good place. I got the support of the athletic directors, the presidents, and we're working. We're trying to be creative. We're looking to enhance our brand, make sure that we are marketing ourselves, we're telling our own stories. And so platforms like this give us that opportunity. And so I'm very appreciative of it. We're going to, continue to challenge ourselves and look for opportunities. Being here in Atlanta, we are partnering with the Atlanta Fulton County Recreation Authority for the basketball tournament, which is really great. So we'll have a lot of ancillary events surrounding the tournament that we have not had previously.
All right, Sly, before we get out of here, I'm gonna cede the final question to Sly, the sports guy.
Oh, man, you threw me for a spot.
Well, look at that.
I know you have to be impartial. I know you have to be impartial. You can't probably go out and say what you want to say. But so I'm not going to ask you who's going to win the tournament. what do you want accomplished out of this tournament between March 5th and March 8th?
I want to showcase the institutions that qualify for the championship, and I'm looking for the best matchups, competitive games, and a lot of fanfare. We're excited for Morehouse to host us with Clark Atlanta because we'll have ancillary events on Clark's campus. So we're showcasing the AU Center and all that's good about the SIAC. So I want everybody to come out, get your tickets in advance, and support the SIAC.
Sounds good to me.
I tell you what, if you haven't been on campus at Morehouse, Clark Atlanta in quite a while, you're going to walk around Clark Atlanta and say, where did all these buildings come from? They have so many dorms and so much construction going on in the AUC. It is really a growing environment. So we hope to see you in Atlanta and really take in everything that there is to see there in the AUC and the city. Dr. Holloman, thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
Sly, who is your haberdasher? I'm going to have to take some notes here.
You had to talk to my wife. She handles all fashion choices for Sly the Sports Guy.
Looking good as always.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us here at HBCU Game Day. We'll talk about the SIAC tournament next week. Who won? Who's going to the NCAA tournament? Can those Miles men make a run for a national championship? How about Clark Atlanta? It does not end with the tournament. There are more trophies to be awarded. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We'll talk to you next time around.